Hello everybody, it's Gibi. Welcome back. This is an updated version of kind of like my ASMR advice / Q&A videos, specifically targeted towards those of you who have questions about my filming process, writing process, my fellow ASMR creators, or people who are interested in either learning about or becoming an ASMRtist yourself. Hopefully the answer to these questions helps you, or at least points you in the right direction. I will list the other videos that I've made, but since it's been a while, I feel like my answers to some of them have changed, so I thought we were due for an update. Thank you to everybody who submitted questions on Twitter and Instagram. That's where I posted this, and I grabbed all the questions from there. If you have follow-up questions or anything else that I didn't mention in this video, I will be looking at all the comments and trying to reply to as many as I can. So if you have any extra questions, leave them below and I will try to get back to you. I'm going to timestamp all the questions, so if you're looking for something in particular, again, check out the description box. I always put lots of information there, and you can skip around if you need to. Last thing is, this is just my GB, my experience and opinion. I am not the law of the land. I barely know what I'm doing. But I do like to be open with my process. I like to show people what I use, just in case it helps you make your own content. And I think that what I do should be helpful even to beginners, even to people who've been doing this for a long time, but I'm in no way like a film professional or anything. GB, you went to school for this. Shut up, I know. But yeah, I went to film school and I hated the filming part, like the actual working the camera, working the lights. I was horrible at it. So you're always learning. There are so many resources out there, especially about filming. So I will point you to some tutorials and stuff like that for people who explain it a lot better than I am. I'm kind of like the for dummies version, but let's jump into some questions and see if I can give you some answers. When you write scripts, do you plan the types of tingles before, during, or after writing? I always wondered how planned they are, especially for theme / roleplay type videos. Good night. I hope you sleep well. A lot of my answers, I think, are going to be, it depends. It's hard to have hard and fast rules for something. I've made 700 plus videos now, so obviously each one's going to be a little bit of a different process, but I can definitely speak to what I've done in the past. I will either get an idea and then go and find props based on that. A good example of that is my pirate video, Captain Robin. I knew that I had some old pirate stuff from when I was in high school. I had like a pirate phase. And I knew that I wanted to make a really cool backdrop, kind of like Goodnight Moon, like a la her type of videos with like the real stuff in the background. So once I decided that, I went out shopping specifically to find, I went to I think Salvation Army and found a bunch of stuff for the background. So that was more like I was planning the tingles and what I would have and what I would use. I planned it after my idea. Other times I'm literally on Amazon or online or in person. I find an object and that inspires the video. There'll be something like, I found this potion bottle in a GameStop and I bought it because it was cool and I was like, I could definitely use this in a video. There's a video like the Odd Auntie series where people sent me items and I had to build a role play out of those. That was a really fun challenge. Otherwise, I'll think of something I want to do, find an object for it, and build it from there. That is, I think, what I usually do. It's like if I wanted to do a wooden grocery store food roleplay, Karuna has amazing ones of those. I'm like, oh, I would love to do a wooden food roleplay. I go online, I buy it, and then I make the video. So it's kind of like that. I also do, when I get things for myself, like the Bath and Body Works video I did, I was genuinely buying those things for my house, and when they came in the mail, I thought to myself, oh my god, I could make a video out of this because all this stuff is like so fun. So it's a mixture of all those things. I would say I usually plan the triggers after I think of the idea. That's more my pathing because I'm more about the storyline and the script and less about particular triggers, because I prefer like speaking the most in terms of my ASMR triggers anyway. There you go. Hopefully that helped. Challenges with creating role plays I want to create versus what SEO demands. Should I just do the classics first until I build a bigger audience, then surprise them with all my crazy ass ideas? Or trickle some in here and there. How to optimize a very odd video. Great question. There are some really weird ASMR videos that completely blew up, I think because they look so different. I can't tell you exactly how to make your video appear. If I knew, that would be a different story, wouldn't it, for everybody involved? Nobody really knows. But I do think that you're kind of on the right track here, which is do a mix of both. And that was my advice a really long time ago and how I started, which was do the videos you want, do those weird videos, definitely do those videos. Also do more popular ideas or ideas that might show up in a search. I've found a lot of artists that way. I'm searching for something in particular, like a grocery store role play or a nurse or whatever. I think your challenge would actually be your title and your thumbnail for the weird video. I would try a few out, make it concise but descriptive, and make your thumbnail try to encapsulate what the video is actually about. I think that would be more helpful than anything, but I think you should absolutely do a mix, especially because if people find that weird roleplay and they subscribe to you for it, that's the kind of content they're looking for. So always make the content that you think you want to be making in the future, at least the near future, and we all grow and we make different content as we continue on. Nothing really stays like exactly the same. But if you love making those weird videos, then you're going to build an audience that also enjoys watching those, so it's kind of like a win-win there. Do you have any tips for role plays? How you give details to your character's personality and conversations, and do your actions on the camera so well, making it seem like you're doing it to the audience? First of all, thank you. I love doing role plays. I did a lot of like theater. I was a theater kid. So from the beginning, like I knew I wanted to do role plays because I always loved acting. I loved embodying a different character and I loved committing to something. So like improv games are really good for that. What I try to do is first think of the physical aspects that I can change to make myself feel different than my normal self. My latest OC, Pom Pom the Clown, I decided I wanted to speak out of one side of my mouth because I don't usually speak like that. So it makes me look different. It's different than what you usually see from me. So picking, like actively picking like a few physical characteristics that you will embody. Like Lorelai's very slow and like it's very hard to explain. Sybil, she like has her eyes really wide a lot. Things like that. You can pick like a couple things, and just like those tiny little things will make your characters distinct from each other. In terms of costume design, I do feel like the acting is more important than the costume, but the costume can help you get into the acting. Wigs change your appearance the most. Then I would say color contacts change your appearance the second most. And then changing like your lips or your eyes, freckles, things like that really change your appearance. So when I was trying to cosplay like Zuko, I looked really different because I put foundation over my lips, which made them look much thinner. I had a scar over my eyes, yellow contacts, and a wig. Add some contour, bam, who's that? Not Gibi. Who's that? Oh, it's Zuko, hey. So like you try to pick as many things as possible from yourself that you can change. Even just a slight change, I think, makes a big difference in characterization. I do like a little bit of like mental lore. You gotta think, you gotta flesh out this person. What are they like? What do they hate? What do they love? What relationship do they have to the viewer? Those sort of things. And that will help you with your conversation, I guess, to the camera, because you are improving essentially. In terms of making it seem like you're doing it to the audience, it's very much just treating the lens of the camera as the eyes of another human being. So when you are brushing somebody's face or touching someone's face in this instance, the closer you get to the lens, the more it's going to look like you're actually in their space. Look right into the lens. I'm looking into your soul, you know, right there. Hopefully that helps with kind of building your characters a little. I just began writing scripts for ASMRtists. Are there others doing this yet, or is this largely unexplored territory? That is largely unexplored. That is a really good idea, because there is a spot for everyone, because writing scripts is very hard. And when something is very hard, there's going to be a lot of people who would like it to be done for them, especially if it's not their forte. I got an editor so fast because I hate editing audio. Editing video, okay, all right. But like cleaning up audio, stuff like that, it's like the bane of my existence, which is very funny considering what I do. But I knew that Vest, my editor, I'm like, he can do it better. And if I have the funds, that is what I want to, that is what's like the hardest for me. So that's what I want to spend it on. Script writing is really awesome. A couple of times when I've had like custom video requests, people who had really specific ideas and would basically write a script for me was like really fun. It was nice. It was easy, and I liked it. And I think that it's a very good idea, because it will help people sort of jumpstart into role plays, or people with writers like a creativity block. You're like, oh man, like I really want to do a role play, but I don't feel like going through the whole process of writing a script from scratch. I would be interested. So I think you're on a great path. Any tips for trying to get into the mood / vibe of filming when you're feeling sort of meh / bleh? Like, how do you get into the zone? I usually, first of all, I will clean. It's so embarrassing, but it's true. I'll like clean the film room and make it like really pretty and cozy. Like literally you could like put on a candle or something, because then you feel very professional and you've already accomplished something. It's clean in here and you're like, ooh, and you lay out all your props so nicely and you have everything ready and you get all the cords out of the way. So like when you're not exactly ready to film, you can kind of like over prep your filming. Sometimes that gets me into the mood, and then I'm like, oh, everything's so set and ready. Ooh, like I'm gonna do this. My second piece of advice is to maybe watch something. Sometimes I'll watch ASMR when I'm getting ready to film and I feel kind of meh, because it's like inspiring, or I'm like, oh, I love this. Like, ooh, I feel all cozy now. I'm ready to be cozy. Or if you're like really blah, like you might even need to watch something super motivational or like hype or something like that. But those would be my recommendations. Is like just either clean or watch some ASMR. Oh my god, I sound insane. Another thing I personally do is I will read my comment section, because you guys are so cute and make me want to film more. Your advice on how to be consistent. I don't know how I did it, to be honest with you. I used to be a very disorganized, messy person. I would lose everything. I was always late. I would never have my homework in on time, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a miracle that I have stuck to my schedule for so long. But I guess it boils down to you have to make yourself believe that it's not an option. And that's kind of what I've done. There are consequences, good and bad, for the choices you make, right? So I'm self-employed technically. I don't have to put a video up 3 videos up every week. Nobody's making me. I don't have a boss, and I certainly can just not. But the consequence for not uploading, whether it's promoting terrible work habits or not, is that you will lose viewership. YouTube might not push your videos as much. You might lose things that you don't want to lose. So I operate on a not very healthy work ethic / fear of losing what I have. I'm just being honest with you here. I adore what I do. I want to continue doing that. So when I found a schedule that worked for me, I just wanted to stick to it because I liked what was happening and I didn't want to lose that. So I just try to keep it going as long as I can. I really like having a schedule because it helps me function in an organized way. I know exactly how much I have to film. I can film ahead so I can take scheduled breaks off of filming. It helps because I have more people involved now, like my editor needs to know what's coming. We need to know deadlines for sponsors. I need to know what props to get so I can plan for this and plan for that. So it's just like the planning and organization side. It's obviously better to make your own schedule. Figure out what works with your time. 3 uploads a week is not like some super overthought number that I think is perfect and that you need to do. It's what worked for me and continues to work for me, and if it didn't work for me, I would change it. So some people are like, oh, well, she uploads 3 times a week, so we have to upload 3 times a week. Or, oh, they upload every day. I gotta upload every day. You have to do you can only do what you can do. There are people who make videos that they could not possibly make 3 of them a week. They can't. They're just bigger productions. It requires more planning and more filming and more whatever. So some people upload once every other week, and it's just you have to look at what's realistic, and it's okay to tweak it, especially in the beginning when you're still figuring out what to do. But I think once you find what works, it's telling yourself that it's just self-discipline I think to an extent. I have told myself that this is what I need to do every week. This is my job. I can do it, so people expect it, and I don't want to let people down, honestly. And I don't mean that in a guilty way or anything like that, but if I say that I'm going to upload Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I want to do that. I want to fulfill my promise, or at least my plan. And I know that the more consistent I am, the less of a big deal it will be if I have to say, hey, you know what? I can't get a video out this Thursday. I'm so sorry. And nobody's gonna explode for that. They're gonna be, oh, okay, Gibi, see you Saturday. Because that's the reality, is that it's not that big of a deal. But in my mind, I make it a big deal in order to stay consistent, just in case I can't fulfill what I need to do. It will always be a struggle to balance work and life and taking breaks and your mental health and all of this. You have to be on top of, and it's hard. It's very hard. But I also, like I said, I love making videos. I love doing ASMR. I have so many ideas that I have to space them out 3 a week. Otherwise I'd be doing too much and then I would collapse, and that's not good for anybody. Like I have so many ideas, like I would feel like I want to post a video every single day, but spacing it out is just so much better for organizing, for video quality, for my health quality, things like that. Like I said, see what you can do. Try to have a goal in mind and see if you can stick to it. Like sometimes it is hard. Sometimes you don't feel like filming. But then again, for me, when I don't feel like filming, I try to think of like, okay, well, what can I do to change it since you are in charge of your own content? That's the nice thing. Oh, I don't feel like filming this today. Then don't film something else that does make you excited to go and film. That's my advice. How much improvisation do you do in your role-playing videos? A decent amount, especially for my original characters. I usually have like a bullet point idea of what I want to do. I'll have like almost like a physical blueprint, because I'll take all the triggers out that I want to use, and I know what kind of order I want to use them in, and then I sort of fill in the talking. So all the talking is usually improv, unless I think of a line that I really want to make sure I say. I'll write that down. For my character videos that are not my characters, so like I said, like Zuko, that script I wrote word for word, and I do a lot of those for characters that aren't mine, that already exist in some sort of other universe. I need to write out word for word because they have like, I want to be as immersive as possible, and I want to stay as true to the character as I can. So I have to think about how they would phrase everything. Hermione is going to talk a lot differently. And although I'm very familiar with the Harry Potter world, I can like kind of throw in a little bit of improv here or there. When I do Arwen from Lord of the Rings, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, like I've seen Lord of the Rings, but I can't just make up what Arwen would say. So like I would have like word for word. So it totally depends. And I think there was another question. I do sometimes tape a script right under my camera, so I can be like, oh shoot, what was I gonna say? And then it's like, I can just like read it. I just like read the script right there. Oh, okay. And then I'll like go back into filming. There'll be a little edit right there. It's very hard to memorize a full script. You don't have to do that. You can just edit. Don't make it harder for yourself. How do you keep your voice constant in whisper/soft-spoken videos? My voice always cracks when I speak too quietly. I actually refilmed this video because I did not like how my voice sounded yesterday. Drink a lot of tea. Wear headphones to listen back. And I think like breathing exercises weirdly help. It's like breath control almost. It's like singing. I do a lot of like breathing into your stomach. And then when you're speaking, like you literally almost like use your abs to get air out, and that's what makes your voice not crack, because you have like some power and control over it. But a lot of the time, like I can't get my soft-spoken voice to sound how I want. Like right now, this is not ideal for me. And that's what I usually will decide to do. I'm like, I guess we're shooting a whispering video today. So I don't have like a tried and true trick, unfortunately. It is difficult. I would say maybe look into breathing exercises, and like vocal control could help. But I get that. That's relatable. How to do role plays on a budget. I don't have the money or storage for wigs, costumes, backdrops, etc. But I still want to make engaging and relaxing role plays. My first suggestion would be use what you have. If you go to the grocery store, make a grocery store role play with all the stuff you brought home anyway. If you look around your house, see what you have. Obviously, that is free, $0. Stuff that you already are going to buy, see if you can incorporate that into a video. Number one. Number two is dollar store. Love the dollar store. You don't need like medical grade stuff to make a doctor video. You can buy cheap, affordable things online or at the dollar store, etc., etc. 3 is to do more like imagination role plays. I think for a role play to be engaging, it's more about the acting for me. So somebody can have like a real stethoscope and just be like really dull. And I'm like, oh, well, this isn't engaging. But if you were like, oh, let me check your heartbeat. Breathe in. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to see the real stethoscope. It's more about you being engaging. And obviously, I think that the imagination role plays, hi, we're in a grocery store. We're actually in my bedroom, but I'm telling you I'm in a grocery store, so you better believe I'm in a grocery store. Those role plays are really popular. You don't have to be the person who makes these insane world, like immersion cinematographic masterpieces like role plays. That's just like a different genre. It doesn't make it better than anything else. It's just a different type. So if you don't have the budget yet, or you don't think you have the storage, make the role plays anyway with what you have, or honestly just pretend. I think those role plays are great. I love watching them. Asking for all the little ASMR artists out there. Do you have any tips for struggling ASMR artists that are seeing little to no growth in their channel? I have to be honest, I don't think that I can give you advice because things have changed so much. I have no idea how I would grow a channel starting now. I started my channel in 2016, which is, I think, part of growing a channel is the time you start, obviously. In 2016, and you can look at like sort of like the Google trends for ASMR, I could name every ASMR artist. Like, it was such like a small, like just like intimate corner of the internet. So it was like kind of, it's like, you have, first of all, do you have a time machine, I guess, because that's something that I can definitely credit. It's just like being at the right place at the right time, knowing that something's going to get big before it gets big, sort of thing. And maybe it would have never gotten big, you know. I remember thinking the biggest ASMR artist had like 400,000 subscribers, and I was like, I will never get to that. Like, that is huge, because the viewers just like weren't there yet. And now you can see, obviously, ASMR has exploded. There are thousands of ASMR creators, and that can sound really daunting, but it's the reality of it. So it's hard to give advice to just a completely different experience than my own, because part of it was just, like I said, being there at the right time. It's kind of like being like a beauty guru now. It's just like, that's gonna be really, really difficult because of the popularity has already risen. And when the popularity of something rises and is there, people are like, oh, this is popular, I want to do that. You can kind of see like where I'm going with that. Does that mean that it's impossible to grow and you shouldn't do ASMR and all this stuff? Of course not. But it's just going to be a completely different experience. My classic advice, I guess, is to, first of all, do something that you've always wanted to see, but you haven't seen yet. So that's what I did when I made my channel 4 years ago. Like the name trigger, no one had ever done that. And there was only 1 or 2 people who like did some cosplay. So like big character role plays and stuff weren't big yet. There's so many things that have grown in the community over the years, and new stuff will pop up. So if you can be the person who thinks of a new thing, again, I know that sounds daunting, but that'll set you apart from the crowd. And then doing a mix of the tried and true things, getting involved in trends that people are interested in. You can certainly look at other trends on the internet and apply it to ASMR. Like Among Us was really big. I made an Among Us ASMR video, and that ended up growing my subscriber count very substantially compared to other videos because people were looking up Among Us and found ASMR. So you can kind of like come at it from that angle. You can come at it from just the consistency angle, which is, again, having consistent uploads. People know that you're going to have content for them, so they come back. Collabs are difficult. I don't even know if I would really recommend collabs as like the best way to grow your channel. I think that a lot of people say that they are, and I just don't think that's true anymore. I think it's good for like growing your sense of community and getting to know people. But I don't think that it grows your channel as substantially as you think. Even when I've done collabs with YouTubers that are like much bigger than I am, it doesn't like blow up your channel or anything. It really is just like ASMR as a whole. The more eyes you have watching ASMR content, the better for you, because there's more viewers to watch all of these creators. It's so hard. I would never want to have to grow my channel again, if that makes sense. I was like, ooh, that was fun, let's do it again. I was like, oh my, thank God, I have no idea how I got out of this alive. Like, it's a lot. It's a mix of a ton of things. How to make your whispers attractive. Okay. I'm glad you asked this. This is one of my pet peeves. When you whisper like this, it is so horrible. Maybe some people like it, but I really don't like it. I always have to click away because it is so grating on my ears. Basically, this is when you are exhaling your oxygen while you are whispering. This is like when you're in the library and somebody is asking you a question, so you whisper, but literally 3 tables next to you can hear you. It's not whispering. Like, you really... What I find is the best whispering for ASMR is if somebody was in the room with you. They really shouldn't be able to hear you, because you are... Obviously, the closer you get to the mic, the softer you need to be. You're barely using any breath. Your voice is like barely escaping your mouth. When you're a little farther away, you can still do the same thing. But when I whisper like this, I have to be very cautious when I breathe in. So sometimes I have to take breaks to get like a real breath in. But can you kind of hear the difference? And it really does help if you wear headphones in your microphone or in your mixers. You can listen back. But this is totally subjective in my opinion. But I like this kind of whispering a lot better. How to film when there's always many people around me. I'm kind of shy around them. Do I just ignore them? I don't have my own room. You're filming in front of a... God bless. I never filmed in front of anyone until way later. Way later. That's like when I need help, like during a video. Like sometimes people will be in the room to like help like with props or set something up or whatever. That would be very difficult to film ASMR with people in the room. I would wait until they leave. Would love some lighting advice. Oh, wouldn't we all? Oh my God, lighting is the bane of my existence. I so feel you on that. I struggle with noise. I can remove most of it post-production, but I'd love to get some tips on how to light videos. Noise is... I'm curious what your camera settings are at. So my camera settings, and I use a Lumix Panasonic GH5. There's a couple of questions in there about what camera I use. I'm using the regular zoom lens that it comes with, perhaps. And I'm shooting in MOV, 8-bit, FHD, 60 frames per second. I should be shooting at 10-bit. For some reason I am not, and I just realized that as I'm looking there. And that's for color. And this is the dumbed down Gibi version. Again, you really should like take the time to look into your camera and what everything means. I tend to find a setting I like and then like don't touch it until I hate it and then do research again. Oh my god, my film professors would kill me. Highly recommend researching and understanding is the ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. For some reason, since the dawn of time, I have learned this like 40 times in my life, and about every 3 months I have to reteach myself. But this is what's going to change your lighting and how your shot is going to end up looking. You could have the best lights and still totally mess up just because you don't have your camera on the right settings. So because you're saying you have noise, I think your ISO like might be too high. So right now my ISO is set at 800. The higher it goes, the graininess is going to get higher as well. That is Film Degree Dr. Gibi's suggestion. But now I am going to show you my lighting setup as well, just so you can see kind of what I'm working with. Hello, I'm bringing you over to tiny camera here. As you can see, I'm pointing it at my regular camera that I use. I'm going to show you my lights. These, first of all, I'm in a seated position here. Usually I'm standing, actually, when I do videos. Decided to sit down. You can see right away that this is my main light here. And I'm going to link you a really helpful video that I followed a few months ago when I decided to kind of update my lighting situation because it was really bothering me. I hated my lighting. So I use this light here. It's dimmable. You can change the color, like the color temperature of it. And this is my light. I purposefully don't have it right in front of me. I'm not really looking for like the YouTube beauty guru type lighting. I want something a little more moody, I suppose. So this is a little to the side, and then it's a bit high right now. Like I said, this is usually my standing light towards me. And then my second light is over here. It's the same kind, just a little smaller. And when I'm pulled forward, it's coming at me directly to the side of my face. And that is here. So those are my two main lights. If I were smart, and when I have time, I will be adding a fill light behind me to get like a little highlight and pop on my shoulder and hairline. And then I have an extra softbox light over here, which comes in handy every once in a while. I kind of just have it on. Right now it doesn't provide me too much light. I usually have it kind of facing the background. I have a couple of native lights, and those are like my Christmas lights across my entire room. I have a lamp that if it showed up on camera, you'd be able to see the lamp. And usually when I'm standing, those Christmas lights will show up in my video, which give it a little bit more of a moody moment. So I'm going to back up and show you the whole setup. I'm going to go ahead and film my camera settings as well, so that might help you a little bit. There you go. So what I showed you from that clip is usually, again, everything will be lifted up because I'm usually standing when I film. I have my main light and my side light. I didn't tell you about my ceiling lights. The ceiling lights to me illuminate the background. So that's what makes my room look a little purple or a little pink or whatever. I use these things called LifeX bulbs, and they're alright. I've learned to use them. I wouldn't necessarily recommend them if there's something better or easier or whatever out there for you, but they work for me. So I can change the color of my ceiling lights, which is very useful for making my content look slightly different every once in a while. I make sure to keep the ceiling light that's right above my face. I keep that off because when it's on, it gives me that real ugly shopping center bright light from above. No, we're gonna take that away. But my ceiling lights illuminate my background. So that's all my lighting. That's everything. Like I said, if I really wanted to up my game, I should absolutely set up my rim light or backlight soon. We're always growing, we're always updating here. Hopefully that excess amount of information has helped you. Your opinion on the best beginner setup. I get this a lot. Not to be annoying, but I do think that there are different types of beginners. There are people who have their background in film and cinematography, but they're beginners at ASMR. There's people who've been watching ASMR their whole life, but have never filmed themselves. Stuff like that. So I'm going to assume you're talking in terms of like a technical standpoint, that you know what ASMR is, and that's why you want to make a channel, but you don't know what equipment to buy. What are the absolute essentials? I will always recommend the Blue Yeti as your first microphone because it is so easy to use. I'm using it right now. People are, oh, it's like not expensive enough. Like I need a good microphone in time. And even I'm back to the Blue Yeti because I just love how easy it is. And I'm not filming rocket science here. It's me whispering in a bedroom. You know, I just like how it sounds. I like that it plugs right into my laptop. I like being able to listen back to it easily. I like the very simple dials. It works for me. And so you obviously are going to figure out what you like and what you don't like. I despise the 3DO, etc., etc., etc. There are a million ways to do the same thing. You will find that out very quick. There's a million ways to do the exact same thing. I will tell you my personal recommendation. I think the absolute necessities for, and you can obviously turn on your phone, use your phone audio and your phone camera, and make a very prolific career out of that. But if you want the more like traditional ASMR setup that I'm recommending, here you go. Blue Yeti, and splurge for the shock mount. Get a shock mount, take it off of its stand that it comes in. Do not use that stand. It makes horrible sounds when you accidentally bump your table. So get a mic stand. I have a mic stand that has a round bottom because it's like a little more saving for me, but a tripod type mic stand works as well. You will want a pair of headphones that has like the classic headphone jack type cord to plug into your Blue Yeti so you can listen back to yourself. This is awesome when you're a beginner. I love listening back to exactly what I'm doing because it helps me know what I need to edit later. It helps me hear exactly what you're hearing. So I would get headphones, your Yeti, and your shock mount. And then you need something to plug the Yeti into. I use my MacBook and I record onto QuickTime. Because I'm not plugging the microphone into the camera, I do have to sync my audio and video. So that's going to require you to have an editing software. I use Premiere Pro. I cannot recommend Premiere Pro because of its outrageous, disturbing price. If you're a student, you get a better price. But but I do not know what editing software to recommend. If you use a cheap, affordable editing software, recommend it in the comments. That'd be awesome. I have a sit-to-stand table that I got from Amazon. It's amazing because you can go up and down with it, so you can stand or sit. And this is for your props, for your laptop, anything that you need. Lay a towel down on top of your table so that when you're putting props down, it doesn't sound like this. I don't have a towel down right now, but when you're doing like a role play, lay a towel down on top of it. I have a laptop stand that is also very helpful. Not a necessity. Very helpful for me though. I love it. Camera-wise, I think a really good camera to start with. I'm really liking all the Sony, and I'm sure that you can compare brands here. These sort of like vlogger cameras. Any camera that has a screen that spins around, that's gonna be like your best friendy boy. My camera has a screen that spins around. You want to be careful not to stare at yourself when you film because it's really obvious. So you always want to look right into the lens that's addressing your audience. This is looking at yourself. This is looking at the audience, looking at yourself. These cameras are expensive, but cheaper than, like I said, I have the Panasonic GH5. This camera was cheaper than that. You could definitely use this. I would say any camera that you can change the settings on. What I was talking about earlier, change your aperture, your ISO, your shutter speed, like those sort of things. If you have control over that and you have a screen that flips around, you're gonna have a great time. There's lots to learn and lots to play with. You can also use your phone if you already have one, like the iPhone, Android. They all have amazing cameras nowadays. I think I would personally try, I've never used my phone really to film. I would try to use the back camera and maybe set up like a mirror so I could see like the framing of the shot. That's probably how I would do it. But the next thing you'll need for whatever camera you're using is get a good tripod. A tripod that'll allow you to stand, that'll allow you to sit, that'll allow you to angle the camera. I have a Gikoto tripod. They're okay. They're really good. I've had like some superficial problems with them, but I'll link it. I'll link all my stuff. I'll link my stuff. I really like this one because you can adjust it so it can like be looking flat down in case I'm ever doing like an overhead shot. So that's why I chose this one. You are going to need a big SD card because ASMR is long form. You don't want to be interrupted in the middle by your SD card being full. So you're going to need an SD card and some type of SD card reader to transfer the footage to whatever computer you're editing on. I have like 256 gigabyte SD cards and those serve me quite well. My last suggestion would be to get AC power for your camera. That means that your camera's not running on a battery. It plugs in, so it'll never die. It never dies. It just keeps going. Again, switching out batteries is so annoying. So I just have a nice little power strip that I plug my camera into. I charge my laptop. I put my lights in, and I'm good to go. And nothing will interrupt me. That's a lie. Everything interrupts me. Lastly would be lighting. There are some really affordable light boxes or ring lights on Amazon. They're great. They're not like the most stunning lighting in the world. Your best bet would be to use like some natural light, but that changes over the day, so it's really hard to control. I would say practice and maybe start with like 2 soft boxes or something. If you're doing green screen, you might need a couple more. But you can play around with lighting. There's a lot of good resources on YouTube for cheap lighting alternatives and options. You're going to get better answers from them than me. Sounds like a lot, but that I think is like the best bare bones yet very comprehensive beginner setup. Like I said, you can also just use your phone and your like the Apple AirPod, the Apple headphone microphone, like so good. You'll be fine, like you'll be fine. But that's, I'm trying to give you something a little more what I think you might be looking for. What kind of equipment do you use? Is there something you use that is a must-have? I would say my superficial must-haves are my sit-to-stand desk, my AC power adapter on my camera, a big SD card, like I said, the shock mount for your microphone, and I really like my LifeX bulbs. I like being able to change the lighting. That helps me a lot creatively. I have wondered if you use some sort of guiding frame, metal wires, etc., near where your hands reach just outside of the camera. This is so smart. This is so smart. This is so smart. I don't, but now I will. And it's thanks to T. Kermy. Full credit. You can set something up so you know exactly where you can go. Because you're right, then you can change the focal length. You're a genius. You're a genius. Usually what I do is I have my screen flipped out. And it's a mix between just practice and peripheral vision. I'm looking at you in the eye, but I can see my fingers are gone now, just out of my peripheral vision. That sort of thing. That's all I do. Or I'll sneak a little look. I cover your face and I'm looking at the lens over there. I'm like, how long have I been filming? From Periwinkle Rose ASMR. Hi, Gibi. Hello. I have 2 questions, if that's okay. Yes. Do you have any advice on how to create a beautiful background without spending too much money or taking up too much space? Yours are always so lovely and your lighting is so soft and glowy. Thank you. Backgrounds. Backgrounds are hard. I think playing with depth of field, doing some research on that is going to be really helpful. When your background's not in focus, it just seems to look a little dreamier. Otherwise, I think in terms of not taking up a lot of space, you can create a nice corner that has things on shelves or something interesting to look at. But anything works. You can be in front of a thick curtain. I used to hang blankets up on a really cheap Amazon backdrop poles, just to switch up the backgrounds. I would just use different blankets. There are really, really cheap backdrops on Amazon nowadays too. I definitely designed this room to feel cozy to me, and whenever I was filming in it. My rooms before this, I don't think were very cozy. I think one of my first rooms was bright green for a full year. And I think it's, you don't see too much behind. So you really you don't have to buy so much stuff to fill that space. I really like Christmas lights or any sort of nice glowy LED sort of dimmable something in the background is very cozy feeling. Big blankets, dark, and I got this canopy. You can see what you already have in the house to create a cozier space. I would maybe recommend replacing your ceiling lights with the LifeX bulb so you can change the lighting. That has a lot of effect on mood, or turning off the ceiling lights altogether and maybe just focusing on like I said, sort of LED dimmable candle lights in the background. How to deal with constant annoying interruptions, traffic sounds, neighbors, etc. without getting really fed up and then no longer feeling in the mood to make the video. Oh my god, that's so relatable. I wish I had good advice for this. I struggled a lot with that. I used to live next to some very rowdy neighbors, and then there'd be construction, and then it was windy, and then people would be partying on the deck, and then something else would happen. It is so frustrating. Like, I totally understand. I ended up switching my schedule around to have the best chance possible to film without interruption. And so that's when I was filming at like 3 a.m. because there was no construction and people were probably sleeping and that sort of thing. And like there wasn't dogs outside, they were sleeping. Stuff like that. It's hard to predict. I'm still, my room is soundproofed. I try not to live near anything loud, and I still get interrupted multiple times every single video I shoot. It might just feel better for your frustration to just know that everybody is experiencing the same thing. Like, you are not alone. We're all in the same boat. It sucks. But sometimes you do need to take a break and step back and come back later. I find when I would get really frustrated, I would turn the camera off because then I wasn't in the mood anymore, and that's okay. And you try again later, and when it's quieter, everything's better. Sometimes you have to know when it's time to not force your way through a video, because it's just not worth it. Honestly, it's not. It's hard though. I get that. I personally think it would be kick-ass to see what the process looks like while you film. Do you do it in segments? Do you do it all in one take? What does it look like for somebody sitting in their room while you're filming? My mom is visiting. Okay, first of all, I fully plan to do this as a video. Like, I'm gonna film myself filming a video because I do think, like, I want to show you guys what it looks like. Again, it's a little different per video. If it's a role play, there's a lot more like setting up and looking at the script and then okay, and then like filming and then like, oh shoot, I messed up, and then you read the script again. For trigger videos, it might be like, oh shoot, I forgot something, so I have to go scurry to go get it. Like, different problems will happen every time. I usually try to do everything in one take, in terms of like, I don't shoot a little bit and then leave, and then shoot a little bit and then leave. But there is a lot of stopping mid-video to adjust, rephrase something, grab something I forgot. My stomach growls, there's a plane, Satine's being loud downstairs, stuff like that. It's like this video I've been filming for 50 minutes. I've probably stopped like 5 times, 6 times, just for various things and different shots and stuff like that. But I will actually film that so you can see it. It's a fun process. We have a good time here. How do you get your green screen to look perfect, and what kind of green screen do you recommend? Oh, the dreaded green screen. I don't like using a green screen. It always is annoying to me. So let me show you what I do to make it as easy as possible. Alright, so this rectangle on the floor here is an Elgato brand green screen, and this is the green screen that changed my life. I used to use this really horrible bright green giant fabric green screen from Amazon. I'd have to like iron it to get the wrinkles out. It was horrific. Let me show you. This is worth the money. So once the feet are out, you unlock it. Alright, so you just saw I rolled up my green screen. This is amazing. I wish they made this in different colors. I would buy all of them. The biggest thing for green screen is making the green as lit up and consistent as possible. You don't want to overlight it. You want it to all be that bright green. Right now you can see these shadows are going to be horrible when you're editing. Make it so difficult, make it look grainy, etc. You want to shoot in as high of a resolution as you can, so the higher quality image you get, the more you're going to have to work with. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with the lighting. This is the other key in making your green screen easy to edit. And this is where my third light comes in. So I'm going to have one light and maybe two. Sometimes I'll set up a second one for my face, lighting my face. And then I'm going to have two lights behind me lighting the green screen. Because the lights are behind me, I'm not going to be casting shadows on the green screen from that light, and that's the key. And that's what I do. Again, you should probably just look up a tutorial. It's probably better than what I do, but this is the basics. So now that these lights are pointing towards the green screen, I'm going to move forward so I'm not behind them, in front of them, yes. Like I said, I would usually get my tripod much higher so I could be standing during this video, but now my green screen, there we go, my green screen is very bright and lit behind me. And I'm using this light here that's behind my camera to light my face. Again, you might need to add a little bit more for your face, but this is what works for me. I have this tiny little triangle that I sort of live in when I shoot the green screen video now. Hey. What settings do you have your Blue Yeti on? I'm so confused by it all. This is an easy one. Here's the Blue Yeti. As you can see, the settings want to be facing away from you. And the knob on the front is to adjust your headphone volume. So if you can put the headphone volume really high, but it's not going to change what you're actually recording. You can put the headphone volume really low. It's not going to change what you're actually recording. What I would recommend is trying to match, do like a little test, a little recording test to try to get your headphones as close to what the output is going to sound like, so it's like actually helpful. Here's your gain. Very simply put, the higher the gain, the more sound it's going to pick up. The lower the gain, the less sound it's going to pick up. Quieter, louder. And then you have your 4 settings. These are my settings. This is my favorite setting for the Blue Yeti. A lot of people love the Blue Yeti because it has a binaural option. So I would say for ASMR, you really only use 2 of these. The interlocking rings right here, this is the binaural setting. That means that it's going to pick up sound here and here, but it's actually like spatially aware. So like, I'll show you. Okay, so if I whisper into this side versus this side, you can hear that it's picking up the different sides. So this is the fun binaural setting. This is great for immersive roleplays, haircuts, triggers, sounds, compilations, that sort of thing. But I find that it doesn't sound as good when you're just talking into the front, like when I'm doing this type of video. So the other setting I use, I believe this is the cardioid setting. It looks like a heart. That's the 3rd setting, and that means that it's just picking up sound right here, right on the front. You don't want to talk into the top. You want to just talk right into the front. I usually put my gain around the N, or right past the N of the word gain. If I'm whispering, I'll put it up a little higher. If I'm far away, I might put it up a little higher, but I don't like it to put it up too high because then it picks up every single sound of the universe. This is my sweet spot. This is what I like. There you go. I'd love to know what kind of sound treatment you have in your recording space. It's hard for me to keep city noises out even when filming at night. Oh, it is so hard. So I have terrible news for you. There's no good solution. There's a couple of options though. One is find a new place to record. I tried this a few times. It is very annoying to go somewhere else to record. But like a really quiet Airbnb in the middle of nowhere, or like you can rent if you want something more. You know, you want to go film every Monday. You can try to find like a sound studio or something cheap or whatever, or like maybe your grandparents live in the suburbs, or like, you know, like you have to try to think, okay, is there anywhere quieter that I could film? That's an option. There's a lot of editing involved. In my first two places, I just waited till it was quiet. There was a lot of interruptions. I edited a ton of sounds out. It was not ideal. I realized that ASMR is absolutely what like, I'm doing this like daily. Like, this is what I want to do as a job. So like when I moved, I would pick places for ASMR purposes. Like when I was in Chicago, we didn't live downtown because I did ASMR, you know, so like it really makes such a change. Your whole life is based around sound. It's irritating. Like, I get it. But it's just it's a commitment. And I'm not telling you to move. But I'm just saying, like, I get it. Like, it is so hard to find a quiet place. In Chicago, even though we had to move far away from the train. There was still street sounds and dogs and kids and whatever. I did spend thousands of dollars to put soundproofing in my rental apartment. I did that, and it helped a lot. But God, it is expensive. It was expensive. It did help, but it was expensive. Then I think, you know, the sound absorption and soundproofing are very different. Yeah, like big rugs help. A lot of furniture helps. Tapestries on like furry tapestries or anything on the walls, anything you can fill your room with, carpets and rugs and stuff, like really help. But yeah, my house now, like we soundproofed this room on purpose, and I can still hear stuff. And I moved to a very quiet place. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, it is so difficult. But yeah, I guess your question is what kind of sound treatment I have. Yeah, all my windows are soundproofed. My floor, regrettably, I did not soundproof. I should have. But I also picked the room that was farthest away from the like heating, cooling, water, air, earth system. So like all the pipes and stuff in Chicago. Like, the heating thing was in my filming room. It was horrible, so I'd always have to wait if it, like, started going off. I forgot about that. Terrible, 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 terrible time. There's no good answer. I'm so sorry. Camera advice in general. Your lighting, clarity, and focus look superb. Thank you. I'm still inconsistent with mine as I'm learning. Thanks, Gibi. So I went over lighting and camera. Focus, I do autofocus. I think it's important to, like I said, have a screen or a monitor so you can see, so you're not recording for 40 minutes and then you're like, ah, shoot, I wasn't in focus. So just taking like a couple of extra seconds before you begin, I make sure I'm on autofocus. There's like a nice yellow box around my face. The autofocus on my camera is like specifically to capture faces. When I hold something up to the camera, I wait, and I'm looking at my screen right now to make sure that this is the thing in focus. Oh, it's in focus. Okay, good, I can put it away. So I wouldn't know if that was in focus if I didn't have my monitor right there. I think autofocus is great because if you take like a step backwards or a step forward or whatever, it doesn't mess up your manual focus as much. If you have manual focus on, I need like a mark on the floor and I need to not move. But manual focus is good maybe if you're showing things off in your hand and you don't want the focus to be going in and out because it's not focusing on the item. That's when I'd probably turn manual focus on just so I can make sure I get what I need and then move on. But yeah, hopefully my other lighting and camera tips help. I'd honestly love any tips for editing binaural audio. I've tried Audacity and maybe it just doesn't work with 2 microphones, or maybe I was super confused with how the program works. Any editing tips and programs used for editing audio with 2 mics would be great. I am going to give this one to my editor vest, but I will show you on TinyCam. I actually just decided to bring it over. So this is what I use when I'm using like my 2, like if I have 2 Rode NT1s, those are like my other mics that I really like. I'll have one mic here, and each one has an XLR cable. So there's 2 cables in 1 and 2. So and you want to think about it from the viewer's point. So the viewer's left, I would treat as my left microphone, even though when I'm looking at the camera, it's the one to my right. And the viewer's right, which is the microphone to my left. So I always used left ear, as in the viewer's left, and right ear as 1 and 2, just what I did. So you can see we have the pan. Now this is going to pan the audio all the way to one side, all the way to the other side. So lefty, we want to pan that audio all the way to the left. And righty, we want to pan that audio all the way to the right. And all the other settings should be the same. I don't know if this is what I usually had. It's been a while. So now you have your 2 mic inputs. And this gets plugged into, I usually just plug it into my computer and I record on QuickTime. But after I record, then Vest, my editor, will edit it.
Hello everyone, Vest here, the editor. And if you're using 2 USB mics to record in Audacity, it's not going to fly. You're limited to 1 input source. Traditionally speaking, there's of course ways around that, but that's for a different video. If you're using 2 XLR mics, you would plug them into an interface like Gibi has shown off throughout the video, and then you would just go into Audacity, select it from the dropdown and hit record. Now ideally, if you're using 2 mics, you want a distinct left and right channel or ear. You would typically do that on the interface itself by turning the knob either entirely left, the panning knob, sorry, left or right. Gibi already spoke about that. Some interfaces will record the files independent, or the channels independently. So when you import it, you'll have 2 channels, and then in your editing software, you would pan it left or you would pan it right on each channel as well. So that is how you would get that binaural ear-to-ear effect. In terms of actually editing, I'm going to jump over to Premiere and just kind of run through the very, very TLDR of how I do Gibi's files. So this is my editing experience. I use Premiere primarily, and in Gibi's case specifically, I bring in the audio, bring in the video, I'd line them up, she snaps so that I can easily line them up most of the time, or claps. And I would line those up and then just go from there. Loud sounds get cut entirely. Softer sounds that I think I can kind of finesse, I will bring into Audition, which is right here. This is a whole nother can of worms. I'm not really going to go into that right now. And in terms of like the audio file itself, you can see it's 1 file for her, but it's 2 channels. Every recorder and microphone setup, it's going to be different. You might have 2 files with 1 channel. You might be in mono, so you only have 1 file with 1 channel. There's a lot of possibilities there, but this is what it looks like for me. And then in terms of effects and stuff that you might hear in Gibi's videos that you've kind of come to expect by now, I use stuff like the constant gain and exponential fade, so it's just to ease the volume in and out. Constant power is another one that, just as it says, it keeps a constant tone through. Typically you would see that when I do crossfades and stuff between clips. I use the denoiser, This one, big asterisk, if you want to apply this to your own footage, it's very, very, it's a tricky effect because when you apply it, oops, when you apply the denoiser and you go in here to edit it, you can see I only have it set to 3%. The denoiser is very good at removing, fuzzy noise, background noise, some microphone noise, stuff like that. But you set it too high and it starts damaging the audio file. So 3%, 4% is pretty much the maximum I use on Gibi's files, especially if she's whispering. If it's soft speaking, you can be a little more lenient with it. But generally 3 to 4%, and that will just kind of remove any of that low-lying hiss and fuzz to clean up the audio. If it's in worse shape, if it's let's say there's a really loud sound throughout the video, then I would take it into Audition and I would have to finesse it in there, notch filters, multi-layered noise filters, stuff like that to try to fix it. But generally speaking, I just denoise 3 to 4%, and that does like 80% of the work for me. The last one you hear, or I guess don't hear a lot really, is the hard limiter. And the hard limiter just puts a theoretical maximum, well, not theoretical, it puts an absolute maximum to what the audio level is going to be. In Gibi's case, normally that's around -10. So that just means no sound, no matter how loud the popping, snapping, whatever the sound is gets, it won't go above -10. And that's just to make sure that there's not a singular sound that kind of gets too out of hand. So if it's a trigger video, for example, we might have a bunch of different triggers at a bunch of different volumes. And because of that, you might have some that almost peak the microphone, and you might have some that barely register. And the hard limiter just helps balance things out. So I could put a maximum to the volume and then adjust the low end and stuff like that. It's just really, really nice to kind of have that certainty that nothing's ever going to get carried away. But yeah, that's kind of the basics, the TL, the super TLDR of how I edit Gibi stuff, at least audio wise. If you want a more in-depth video, maybe ask her for one and I can possibly make that sometime. But it's the biggest thing to take away from audio editing is that it's very subjective from person to person. Every microphone, interface, recording software, computer, so on and so forth, headphones, they're all going to make things sound different. So the biggest tip, regardless of everything I just said, is to visualize your audio editing experience. That is very, very important. It will give you more accurate information than what your ears can. Ears notoriously unreliable. But yeah, visualize your audio experience, practice maybe with some of the effects that I've used, and I hope that helped.
How do you record your videos without any ambient noise? It's very difficult for me. What kind of post-production do you do? 1, make sure you turn off your heat or your air conditioning. 2, get your computer lifted so you don't have like computer fan noise. 3, try not to have your gain too loud. 4, film when it's quiet. And then 5, I'm going to send it over to my beautiful editor, Vest.
Hello everyone, Vest the beautiful editor. I guess I got a bit of a promotion there. But in terms of post-production stuff you can do, I kind of covered some of this, the denoiser, the spectrograph editing. There's also stuff like the de-esser, de-hummer. You can do multi-tiered or multi-layered noise removal in Audition and some other software. You can use the equalizer to try to balance out sounds if there's like a low-end hum or something, or a high-end hiss. Notch filter to isolate very specific frequencies, and any of those terms, like I would just suggest Googling. But at the end of the day, you always want to start at the source. So people often think of editing as the way to kind of make everything perfect, but really the best editing happens before you even get it on the computer, and it happens at the source when you're recording. So like Gibi said, change rooms, change the time frame, try to change your setup to be as quiet as possible. Turning fans off, turning heaters off, keeping your computer isolated so the computer sounds don't get picked up. And then, of course, the most technical thing that I could speak to would be the gain and your actual mic settings. GB mentioned, don't have your gain too high. You want to have it, so it captures your voice, but doesn't capture a lot of hiss or background sound. At the end of the day, gain and volume aren't necessarily the same thing. Volume's more of a measure of how loud something is, but gain, it's better to think about as a function of how much sound is being captured. And with that in mind, you can turn the gain almost all the way down a lot of the times. And if you're close enough and you're loud enough, it'll still pick you up. And it might seem kind of backwards to be loud in ASMR, but remember, you're just being loud during the recording part. You can then lower it, adjust it however you need to in the editing process and still get a very good result. And by having that low gain and you're being so close to the microphone, you're going to get a much cleaner sound that is easier to work with. If you had it the other way around, you might get the more traditional ASMR volume level, but you might also be capturing a lot of background noise, and it's much easier to just boost and adjust volume levels than it is to try to clean up noisy audio. So one of the biggest tips, I guess, is just kind of mess with your gain. And if you're worried about background noise, just err on the side of caution, bring the gain down quite a bit, and then you can boost it after the fact versus vice versa, where you end up just with a bunch of noise.
How many times do you rehearse a video before it's good enough to record, and how much editing is involved? I would say the editing is different. It's not like you're editing like a narrative piece with like different shots and angles and things. Sometimes there's like multi-angles in ASMR, but most of the time, traditionally, it's like one very long static shot. So anytime there needs to be an edit, it's just like you cut out whatever needs to be edited, slice it together, throw a little crossfade on there if you're feeling fancy. I find the crossfade is just a little less jarring than a jump cut, just in ASMR. Obviously, it just depends. It depends if there's multiple angles. It depends if there's layered sounds, if we're doing a green screen, if we're doing extra sound effects, if there's more than one character, God forbid. Rehearsing, I'll rehearse character videos a lot. Kind of like I was saying before, characters that aren't mine, I like to rehearse their voices, their mannerisms, that sort of thing. So I'll probably I'll write the script, which helps me. Because if I'm the one writing it, you kind of get it in the zone. Print it out. I'll probably read it out loud like 3 or so times before I give it a go. And then I usually film twice for those kind of videos. I'll be like talking, and then like 10 minutes in, I'm like, okay, let's just do it again. And the second time is like always better. So if you have the time, doing it twice is usually better. Most of the time, I will like plow through and only redo spots that like I really despise. Because I try not to be like too much like a perfectionist, or else I would never ever get any videos out. And you are your own worst critic. But I can also let Vestman talk about the editing process if he would like.
Hello, Vest here again. How much editing is involved in a video is a very open-ended question because it depends on the type of video. If it's just a talking video, like what we're recording here, then those are pretty simple edits. I just listen to the timeline, I take out loud sounds, correct any audio, correct any visual errors, color correct the entire process, and then render and boom, done. If it's a little more in depth, maybe it's a role play, maybe it's a trigger video, then I need to be more mindful of the flow. So for example, if it's a trigger video that's the emphasis is triggers, then I will cut out downtime where she's picking stuff up or setting stuff down if it doesn't really contribute to the video. If it is a role play, I need to be mindful of like what's being said specifically so that the conversation makes sense. And, if there's a loud sound, I'll try my absolute best to get that sound out so that I don't have to cut any major part out of the role play, because that can have, repercussions throughout the entire role play if it's an important sentence. The toughest, of course, are green screens. Those take the longest by far. So most videos, if it's, let's say, a 30-minute ASMR video, it takes me about 60 to 90 minutes to edit. But if it is a green screen video, you're probably looking at 2 to 3 hours minimum. That's because I have to edit it in multiple passes. To make sure the green screen comes out properly, I do just a video edit where I literally just sit here and I just watch the video. And if there's an artifact, if there's something off, then I have to try to correct that. Then I go back and I do a second pass for the audio. And then typically I'll even do a third pass where I just watch it at double speed and see if everything still works. Green screens are very difficult. You could even ask Gibi. There have been times where I've scrapped an entire edit hours in and redone the whole thing because I'm not happy with the green screen. It's like my thing. I get very particular about green screens. I try very hard to get them right. I'm constantly on GB about like, can we adjust lights? Can we try something to get this? And you've heard her talk about throughout this video about how important lighting is and even how she plans to get more lights because we're constantly chasing that like perfect, clean, crisp green screen. And it's very difficult, uh, for a lot of reasons. But yeah, generally speaking, the simplest videos are just talking. They require very little editing, and it's just kind of about noise removal and bad sounds getting cut out. And then the complexity ramps up from there with green screen videos typically being the most complex because it is a lot of technical editing, a lot of visual editing, and then you still have all the audio editing on top of it.
All right, I have been filming for over an hour and a half. Apologies to my editor once again. Those were a lot of the Twitter questions. I didn't get to Instagram, so instead I'm going to do a little highlight and answer some of your questions on my Instagram story instead. So hopefully that will help if I missed anybody from Instagram. But thank you guys so much for all your questions. I hope this was helpful. If you have anything else, put in the comments and I will get back to you. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck in all of your endeavors. I am rooting for you and I hope you sleep well.